Hi, and welcome to the fifth episode of BlazQ, Uprising of the Jokers. And today will be um and today we will be a lot about coding again, which is great, and we will focus on the game mechanics by adding new features and new elements. As usually, we start with some slides, and to be honest, I haven't prepared much. So let's focus on what we want to achieve today. Um, yeah, we can really talk about times. I think it's an adjustment we can make here. So anyway, let's make a brief introduction about what we want to do today. So let's go away. Okay, today it's about creating more or a better kind of game experience. So starting with the two players here, like last time. First, we change from counting correct answers to counting points. So we're going, for example, now I want to choose you see, I lose a certain amount of money, or I can choose the right one. I will earn a certain amount of money. We will also have like a kind of multiplicator. So the more we answer correctly, the more we got, um, either we got more points. For example, now I have a multiplicator of 2. I can increase it by answering correctly to 3 and so on, which is also true for the second one. And if I'm choosing also the not correct answer, I'm losing the same amount of money here. Okay, so just to make a, and also the uh, mouse, and also the yeah, results are improved because now we're counting points. And as the second element, we're introducing jokers, which are kind of tricky things. So, example one is like I call him total reliability, a total reliable wisdom joker. So, with a certain probability, it will choose the right answer, but not always. And I hope to, you see, in this case, it was not the right answer. The second joker is, wait, um, so the second joker is like, my mouse is today not wanting the same as I do. Second thing is like I can nail, so I can force someone else to answer. And for example, now I force the second player to answer, and if this player answer correctly, like this, I will lose money. Otherwise, yeah, he will win or they will win money. Anyway, so that's what we want to do in changing our game mechanics a lot by adding brand new features. As always, we're going through like report last episodes, and I'm really sorry I didn't find enough time to make these stats from last time into the presentation. But what I can say is like the important thing here. It's like numbers are kind of growing compared to total views and other things, and but most importantly, I still have a lot of fun doing it. And we have also like last episode and also in this episode new followers, which I really appreciate. And it's still a lot. It's still a lot better than what I've expected starting it. So I'm pretty happy. Okay, that's all what I want to say to the presentation. So now we can jump directly into coding. Here we are. Okay, as usual, we starting by cloning the repo, and then we going forward. Git git clone. Hmm. Okay, done. Episode 5. It's amazing. 5 episodes already. And here we go. Open with code. Okay, so two things at the game mechanics. First is points, second is jokers. And the good thing about these two tasks, they are kind of very easy to distinguish from each other and needing very different steps to code. So we can easily start with the points and go later to the joker elements. So, okay, points. Well, let's starting with the question itself. So in a game session, each question need to have, well, let's say kind of value. So we're just adding public because it should be uh, readable by everyone. Value get set. Again, a question view model is just a kind of container for data. No logic, no behavior, just data. And we said like value should be public, so everywhere in our code readable, get and writable set. Just a quick reminder of general syntax. So going back, sorry, to our game session. And now I'm just, because I'm very creative, I started with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000. Again, it's not about the values. I mean, it's about the values if you want to play it in your thing. And here we are. Okay, first step. Now question has have values. We're going directly into our player, and the player already counts like the correct answers. Now we're adding a new property, which we're calling points, which should be public readable, but only private writable. And why not starting with 0 to make it more explicit? Okay, so, and here, if we set the answer, let's introduce a new variable and call them, wait, call them points. So, and now we say if is correct answer, we want that our points should be increased by points. Otherwise, it should be decreased. I'm so lazy that I'm going to copy and paste it and just changing the operation. Okay, so this thing is invoked by our game session page. It should by now start to complain. Yeah. And we can go like get current questions dot value. And what I think now here interesting to say is we have using the second time the same method call here. So it's generally good practice to say, well, it seems like I need it more often. So let's refract that a bit by removing it from here, here, and here. So we don't gain any functional improvement. It's just better to read. If you have any questions, right, just just ask, and then we can go from there. And I need to just to rearrange my space a bit. Look, look. Okay, better a bit. Okay, so now we would counting points. What is kind of missing, we wouldn't display the points. So let's go to our component, which was the footer component. So here we are. Okay, and here we displaying our property of players. Interestingly, we created these in our player model, player class, and our footer still use the kind of player view model, and also the single one, which we don't use anymore. It's like a artifact from last time. Anyway, let's focus on the player view model. Now, as we have more functionality, we can also repurpose the intention of this class or this model. It's not a player view model, it's technically used to create a player. So let's reflect these new insights by changing the name to create player view model. And we're going further and say our footer don't have player view model, create player view models anymore, it's just player. So some other things are now complaining because we don't have an avatar and a name property. Okay, makes sense. So we go into our player, we're adding new properties like public string name, public string avatar URL get, and I was wrong. It should be only set one time while initialization the object. Um, okay, and now reading question. Um, Storing the data. At this stage, we're just focusing on a local game. So our data is saved in a kind of only in a in-memory fashion. But with the not next, the session after the next session, we start to using a very simplified approach to save the data in a kind of cloud environment. Um, if you're meaning with storing with data between components, that would be a different story. But for now, it's like if you're starting a game, you have a kind of session in memory, and if you close the browser tab or the window, all data will be lost. Um, yeah, as I mentioned in the next session would be something about where we really deploying it to the cloud environment. So it could be used with the URL globally. And the next step is to go directly into multiplayer experience, so like online real-time multiplayer. And for this, we will use a storage concept. I'm not really I haven't decided yet if we're using anti-framework core or even a simpler approach. I'm tend to using an even simpler one to yeah, because it's a very specific and dedicated purpose. Anyway, so we have now avatar name and avatar URL. We need a constructor. So let's create one. And we get a name and we get an avatar URL. And because I'm lazy, I want to create property and I want to create a property here. Create a property. Okay. So now we have our player. We have our footer, footer. So another thing is our player avatar, expecting a player create model. So we're changing it to player, and because the names are the same, we don't need to change anything here. Okay, finished, finished, finished. Now we're going directly into our player details page, which will also now complain because expecting different model. So let's change it here to players, but not here because we still want to create a player. And we adapting our method. We add now a new player with model dot name and model dot avatar URL. Okay. The next component we used our footer and therefore the data is our result page. Here we are. So let's go for our result page. Yep. No, it's working. I'm looking for the footer. Right, I don't bind anymore here. Here it's still wrong because our player don't have something. Just for now, we will comment this line. We can compile. And we're going now to our game session page. game session page, game session page. Here. No. So here will also be changes inside the footer because session players is still the player create view model, and we need to change it. Now we're doing kind of a little trick. We rename these to players. Now we have two. We're removing it here. And now we're fixing the issues. It's like we're expecting a player. Private, it goes to get init. And we have players, and we don't need to do this anymore. So we can reduce. Source code reducing is always a good thing. And also here from the game session repo, because we do it later. For now, we just ignore it. So we have done a lot of changes. Wait, I want to save all. Nope. Saving all. And let's say if everything compiles for now, so .NET would run. Or if you still have some issues somewhere, because we have done a lot of changes. Still some errors. Game session page. Okay. We need to have a public here. Makes sense. So we try it again. And working. Okay, so we have now just introduced points. We're still not displaying it. Okay, so let's move to these thing here now. So remember, this is our element here, our player. So these thing. I want to display the points right to the avatar. So we're just introducing a new div. We giving it display flex. We say it should be flex row. So it's next to each other. And this entire element is now just one element of the row, where we have another display flex, where we insert player dot points. And I think I've prepared a class before. Let me check how I named it. It's points. It's easy. So class points. Okay, we have like display flex row. Here we have something because you can say I want to display flex row. So it should be next to each other. Then I can say align items center. Okay, save. And let's see what we have here. We have our points and just using the looking perfect, it's centered, div has full high. I think a little bit of margin would be nice. So maybe say margin left 2, maybe margin left 3. Here we go. So going back, introducing margin left 3. Okay. Closing developer tools. Going right into the next one. Start game. Now we see if it's working or not. So I choosing right answer. I've got 1,000 points. I'm going to the next question. I choosing right answer, getting 2,000 points, which makes perfect sense. Yay. So this algorithm here is working. So next would be to focus on this page here to make it better. Because now we don't care about the percentage of correct answer anymore, we care about the points. So let's go step by step. Saving footer, we're going back to our game session because this is the place where um, we create our report here. So let's say player is not a create player vmodel anymore. Change it to player. Oops, change it to player. Okay, because you have changed it to player, we could reuse. I'm looking game session results. We could reuse this here because it's now a player. I want to introduce a new column. Let's call it points. And I want to display the points here. Item player points. Second column makes sense. So now we go in here. We say already best report is order by percent of correct answers. Now we're changing to order by player dot points. And here in the header, we're using best report here. And here in the for each, we're using kind of the same thing as we have used here. So well, let's say like we're creating a new variable, private variable of game session report view model, and let's call it sorted reports. And now we say sorted reports equals or assign these. We can still say sorted reports first. Now we can go here, remove it, putting it here. We save our changes, recompiled, and start game. I'm just going through very briefly. Next. It's now like zip. I'm choosing wrong answer, choosing right answer. So you can see our new metrics are applied and still looking at the same as before. Okay, result page finished. Now we're entirely focusing on the points here, which is great. And these are just a kind of nice bonus value, but not the ranking factor anymore. Okay, so now we have points. First step accomplished. Yay! The second, it's now about adding more dynamic into the game. And why not using something which is very simple to develop and still can have a kind of very interesting effect on the game mechanics. So we're introducing a multiplier. So multiplier is increased by 1 every time a player chooses a correct answer. And the score a player can gain with a question is always the question value multiplied with these with this series indicator, with this multiplier. And also we say it doesn't only apply to positive answer. Also, if you have like choose the incorrect answer, you will lose more money. So this should make the player think very carefully if they want to answer or not. Yeah. So the good thing is it's kind of an internal mechanic of the player. So we don't need to change anything anywhere else from the logic point of view. So I'm introducing a new variable, multiplier. Same thing, get private set. This time we initialized it with 1 because otherwise, if it would be 0, something multiplied with 0 is always 0. So we would have a kind of nice thing here. So if the answer is correct, I would increase the multiplier by 1. Otherwise, I would reset it to 1. And I'm introducing a new variable. I call this variable score, and score is nothing else than multiplier multiply with points. And I say you getting more plus score, oops, or minus score. Oh, okay. So next step, we want to display it. So we're introducing a new thing. I think I called it multiplicator. Maybe not correct, but it should serve the purpose and multiplier. So in a kind of layout, it would be like not beside each other, but above. So we change from row to column and from aligning center items to um, justify justify content center. Okay, and I want to put an X in front of it. So we're saving our changes, building our application. So we see here 1 and here also 1. I start the game by choosing the correct answer. It's a very nice multiplier. Interesting error. Um, well, something with the player might have gone wrong. No, no, the player has gone wrong. Yeah, yeah, makes totally sense. So score and plus 1. A nice one. Um, okay, we start the game. I'm choosing the correct answer. I'm choosing the correct answer, and I got my multiplier is now 2. I choosing again the right answer, and I've got much more points. And next thing, I'm choosing the wrong answer, and my multiplier is back to 1, and I have lost a lot of points here. Okay, working as expected. Perfect. Another thing, it's like it's nice to see it, but we wouldn't need it on this page. Would be fine to just seeing the avatar and the key, but not the points and the score. So from that point, it would be great to have like an option to do so. So we go into the footer. We creating or introducing a new variable parameter. I mean boolean show points panel get set and should be a parameter. So, and I only want to show this thing here if 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 true, if job panel true. Okay, done. And because it's, well, let's say we set it default to false, maybe even different, we say default to true, because then we can go to our player details page. We can go to our footer. We can say show point panel and set this value to false. And if we have done things correctly, we shouldn't see something here, which is great, but we should see something here. Okay. And we have accomplished another thing. So we have introducing points, and now we have also our multiplier. So now it's time to set up the jokers. So again, jokers from a perspective of game mechanics. is something which helps you, but they come, well, let's say with a certain amount of, with a cost. They are not always helpful. One joker we're studying first is, I call him like the total reliable wisdom joker. So this joker will select an answer, but only with a certain probability it will be the right answer. So let's say we stick to 70%. In most cases, like 7 out of 10, it will be helpful, but in the other three cases or occurrence, it will be not helpful and even hurting in kind of setting back your points. So, and the other thing, the other joke I will talk more in detail later is like you can nail someone, so you can force someone to answer. However, if these player answer correctly, you will lose points. The basic idea is that the player choose this joker very wisely. And yeah, we starting with introducing a button which can be used to trigger this joker. And I will just close all other tabs because we need now to do a lot of small changes in a lot of files. So close all other tabs. We're starting from the footer where we want to introduce a button. And if this button is clicked, we should um, we should trigger this kind of cycle here. So it's a long way to go with small steps, but nothing we can't do. So there will be more than one joker, and from a kind of perspective, it would be great to have like all the jokers left, left to the points. So again, it's the great thing about flex design. We just need to introduce a new container, display flex, and flex row. In this row is this element, and also a new element, new element, which is also display flex and flex row, because this is where we want to put our buttons. Creating a button. I set a class like btn primary, for example, to make it look a little bit better. I set content like total reliable wisdom joker, grw, and we'll change it soon. No worries. Primary. And what I want to do, I want to trigger an action when this button is clicked. So therefore we have like the on click directive. And what's the and the thing is we can't handle Aussie logic in the footer here because we don't know much about the player and other things. So the game session page would be a very good choice to handle such an event. So we introduce first a new parameter of type event callback. And let's say like total reliable wisdom joker requested. That's a long name, but it's very descriptive. And we just say on click doing that. Now we go into our game session page here into our footer where we can now set this variable requested. And I just want to stick to the name. We introducing a new method. And what I want to do now is just make a proof of concept it's working. I'm using the console write line method to producing a kind of output. as a way to show that this method here is executed. So we're going back here. I open the developer tools. I'm going to start game where I can see here my button and I can see total hours clicked. So it's exactly what we have written here. So we can prove our source code is executing this line, which is great. By the way, buttons are kind of two things. So we would say align, um, justify items content, um, justify items center. Justify should be right correctly. Justify. Just what is wrong? Justify. Justify items center. Okay, definitely. Items justify content. Oh, I wish you also a good night. So, um, and by the way, that's why I'm confused. It's align items center. Now we are. Yeah, well, want to go align item center. So we're going back here into our layout. I was confused or successfully confused myself. So align item center. Okay, our button is clicked here. So we have this thing, and we see that if we clicking this button, method here is executed. So it's a very good starting point. First, only if active player index. So we only can use this joker as long as someone is active, as long as player is selected. If not, it doesn't make, we have not much need. So what we want to do, we want to ask the session shows option would be our session. Get answer from. And even while this method doesn't exist yet, shouldn't stop us from creating it. So public. That's nice. And then we say submit answer. Option selected was the name. Option. Because it's spelled wrong. I will stick to the wrong spelling and correct it soon. Shows an option. That's a very good one. So let's correct it. Option selected should be option selected. Okay. So, and we just make a point return. We don't implement any logic yet. We just returning always the first answer, just to make a point that we see we only need to modify this thing here. So fresh new start. I starting the game. I selecting a player. I selecting the other player. Moving to the next question. So we can see the entire other part of the game is still working. So we need just all we want to do is needing all we need to do is to focusing on the logic of the joker itself, and the logic here is selecting the right answer. Okay. Well, we start with an edge case. The edge case would be like there's only one answer left. I mean, why should a user use the Joker in these circumstances? Yeah, also a good question, but at least it's not wrong. So we need to find out if all options of all questions have been answered so far. I mean, except for one. So let's say if only one option is left, equals true, get current question. So we don't have this method now, but let's assume we would have it. So if only one option is left and the yeah question has not finished, the only possibility is that this question is the correct answer. So it's totally fine if um, we directly send it back. So the next thing would be else. So we're introducing something which is called random. Random is a pseudo number generator, and it's not like it generates really um, statistically randomized numbers. It's there's a kind of algorithm, so there's always a kind of start value, seed value, and the same seed value will produce the same sequence of numbers, and that's why it's called pseudo. So for us, it doesn't matter. So as long as in this case, it's like think about the current time is used as a set value. So as long as the current time differs, we will get different results. So and now because it's still a game, we said should be correct answer. And this is something like random next double. I explained soon. The next double will return kind of equally distributed numbers between 0 and 1. So if we want to have like the correct answer should be with 70%, we need to go like greater than 70%. So if we have like equally distributed numbers, each number has the same probability to be selected. So if we have between 0 and 1, 70% of the numbers will be um, very good, will be smaller than 70, not 70, will be smaller than 0.7. And if should be correct answer equals true, and we're building out something else, and it's about returning the right answer. So chosen option index, well, let's say -1. And in this case, it's the same as here. If not, that's an interesting thing. So now it's about finding an option which hasn't been used and which is also not correct. And well, two conditions. And we know we have to check it for each answer. So let's go straight with a for loop. For int e, length would be like get current question dot options dot count. If players already answered, get answer from it's not ready. So if option option has already been chosen, something we created last time for the optical thing. So if option E has already been chosen, then it's definitely not an answer we can return from the joker. So we would continue going to the next iteration of the loop. And also, if our index is get current question dot current option index, also then we need to continue. But as soon as we have found something which has not already been chosen and which is not the correct answer, then we can safely say chosen should be our current index, and then we can break our loop. There's no need to go further from here. Either way, we would return chosen option index. So last thing before we execute it and actually see if it's working or not, um, let's have a thing here. So in each of these circumstances, we always returning something. We have now like one return and two returns. And we can reduce it to just one return if we moving it outside the first conditional statement and moving it here. And we're saying this way. Again, it's not new logic, it's just a kind of cleaner way to structure it. Okay, so now we need to implement this method. And private boolean. So how we could go for it if only one option is left. So let's say we go through all of our players. For each player in players, if player has answered question index, sorry, the question index true, then we can continue. Otherwise, maybe we make a step back so I can find a better explanation here. We already have the functionality to know if a player has answered a question or not. So we have now multiple ways to find out if there's only one option left. So we can start by saying something like options amount is something like get current question, like options dot count. And whenever a player has answered this question, we can the option amount decreasing by 1. And so we could return options amount equals 1. Yep, question index. So let's say we have like 4 possible options for a question, and 3 players have already answered. So we would have 4, first iteration 3, 2, and finally 1. So we could say only one option is left as long as our option amount um, is 1. So if only 2 players would have answered, we would stop the iteration by 2. Okay, finished loading the application. It's working from here. I just adding 2 other players to make a point here. So let's start. First player is using reliability joker. Right is selected. Second player using reliability joker. 70% it's working. Using a reliability joker. Also working. It's a very nice thing because I wanted to show exactly the opposite, but it's how it's working. So in general, we can see it's possible that the joker fails. Not clever. Not clever for me. Um, hmm. So let's think about the edge case. So first plan answer incorrect. Second answer also incorrect. Third is answering incorrect. So now I using the total viability joker of last player, and also our edge case is working. So just to make another point, it's working. It's working. Just we now would need to create some things where it's not working. Try it again. I'm really curious when our probability will kick in. Okay, so I was too far ahead. I want this one. That's an interesting thing. 70% and always right. Ha! No, I've clicked it. Ah! Stop. I want to use my joker. Next thing. I want to use my joker. Ha! Now we see. Took a little bit of amount of time, but finally we saw the kind of price the joker come with. Again, 70%, 7 out of 10 cases. And sometimes, yeah, as we all know, statistics can be sometimes be very, well, not in our favor. Okay, before we move into the second joker, it's time to make it a little bit better. So first thing, you can see I can use the joker as often as I want to. There's no limit. It's the first thing we do. So now we're starting to limit this joker, that the joker can be used only once. To achieve it, we're going directly into our game session page where we execute our joker. So we would need to introduce something new like if session player has used total liability joker active player index. And only if this is false, we can use the joker. So this is something we need to implement here. We're going into our game session, we go directly here, public boolean player index. We're choosing our player, which is players add player index. And then we want to return, let's say, player used total. And this in mind, we want to generate a property. Here we are, not internal but private. And we go into a boolean. And now we have get and set, but we should also mark it. So maybe we create a new method like void total reliable wisdom joker used. In this case, we said total reliable wisdom joker used. And maybe we say has used to make it more descriptive. We go in here, we go back to our game session, we return this value. So now we have this value, but it will always be false because we don't really use it here. So let's say player index. And whatever, answer we're choosing, the end is the same. So we can say if player index is equal to 0, then we return false. If player index is equal to 1, then we return true. the joker is used. So let's go set it directly from the beginning. So we have already used a joker, so player used, provided joker wisdoms used. So we just inform player that this is used. So a lot of small changes. So saving and executing would be nice. Oh, there was a short sleeve. Um, give me one small chance to read your question. To answer your questions, I want to go to a different example here. You see this? So what this is called is a lambda expression. So lambda is a kind of mathematical, very interesting construct in the computer science. Important here is to say whatever you're writing in front, like an X or a Q or whatever, um, it doesn't matter. It's like a placeholder. So you're iterating through all the reports here, and you need to have a kind of name, a unique identifier for each element. And this element is X in this context. But again, it can be any other thing as like a variable. And we say for each element um, in this iteration doing this. In this case, it would be return a value of an integer, and then it's used by the order by function to do it. So it's the same with entity frameworks. There's no difference because it's using the same kind of language. So whenever you have a lambda and you need to think about order by descending, expecting a func from your type of collection and returning an int. And that is exactly what we have. We have here a function. We're putting in x, which is of type, you can see is of type game/report view model, and we're returning points. And the same is true for um, these queries. Sorry, now I see what these queries in anti-framework. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I have a small, sorry, question kind of answered. I know it's a very complicated thing going into these lambdas, but it's we have the same concept also in JavaScript nowadays. It's just like think about an inline function. It's a declaration of an inline function. Okay, back here I said I want to have it, so I here it's a T needed because I misspelled it and active player index. Okay, compiled. So our goal was to make this button only make this joker only be usable once. So I using it once. Next question. I can't use it again, but we still can see it. So also an easy thing to fix. With the magic of Blazor, we just need to go into the footer and we just need to put an if clause like if player dot only if the joker hasn't been used, so if use is false, we should display the button. So restart and we're starting a game. We're going into player and we see it's already used. It's vanished. Okay, perfect. Another thing accomplished. So now we may adding a little bit of more comfort by allowing our users to using a keyboard instead of a mouse to trigger this button. So we have already our, in the game session, our method for controlling keys. Yep. So active player index need to be greater than 0. Makes sense. We try to pass it as an answer, as a number, okay. But if not, let's see if args.key equals well, let's say reliability total joker, reliability joker, or R. And in these cases, total reliability joker requested. So save, waiting for compile, and starting a game. I'm now choosing my player, choosing T, working fine. I go into the other player and I choosing R. Again, choosing wrong answer. Woohoo! Mean joker, mean joker. Okay, and before we moving to our next and last joker, the nail joker, let's think about it's. I mean, it's not really bad looking, but there are better ways to do it. And one thing I really like to is Font Awesome. Font Awesome provides a lot of free to use fonts. And we have, for example, um, like a balance, this classical um, icon associated with um, justice systems, and so on. And I think it's a good explanation of this joker. Usually it will be right, but sometimes will tend to um, go to one side. So we have here this icon, and we have here how we could use it. So I can copy it, I can go back, I can go into our footer, and instead of having these content, I want to have these content. And to use Font Awesome, because as the name suggested, it's a font, we need to include it in our file. And here we have like CD content delivery network for JavaScript, and also for a lot of other things. It's amazing. So here we can have Font Awesome. We see here's like a library or a URL where we can use it. I want to copy the entire link tag. And because it should be available through the entire application, you're going into our index file. I just copy it here. So the important thing is like the URL. And to make sure that this file hasn't been manipulated, I setting or the script sets this is kind of checksum or hash I expect, and then the browser checks if the file which is downloaded from this URL will have the same hash value. Okay, Font Awesome here. And I also created kind of class to styling it just a bit, not much. So now we should see. Nope, wrong window, right window. Um, yeah, now we have this small thing here where let's say a little bit of margin and a little bit of margin, a little bit of margin. Yep. So tiny container, so let's say a little bit, so ML1, and we have I want to move these because I want to have a white button, which is BTN Joker. So BTN default, BTN Joker. Hmm, I want to have a white one. I forgot. Wait a second. I created a class which just sets the font size. Make sense because I had BTN white. mm. Primary, default, confused, totally confused. Um, well, let's say primary is working, right? Primary, primary is working. Now it's blue. Default, it's not working. Hmm, well, sometimes we forgot things, so bootstrap documentation. Bootstrap 5, which is great. 4. I want to have my components. I want to have buttons. Light. Mm, light. Ooh, this was a good one. Ah, that was a good one. Light. Would say something like, I will never forget it, but usually I will forget it in a couple of days or weeks. But that's a good thing about documentation. Always places where you can have a look. Okay, so just to make sure we are here from now. Perfect. Now we have our buttons. We have our Joker, which is working. And now it's time to take care of the second Joker, the nailing Joker, which requires a little bit of more logic here. So while I'm drinking something, because I'm thirsty, let me explain again the purpose and the way of how it should function thing here. Um, yeah, so congratulations on getting it working. I'm I'm proud of you, and I remember all these. Not remember would mean I'm kind of old and um, viewing back to my days when I was young. I know not this time, but it's always nice to have these eureka moment where you realize or where finally something makes click and you can connect kind of aisles of wisdom or aisles of knowledge in your brain to make a kind of compelling story. It's great. It's a great feeling. Okay, nailing Joker. So basic idea is a player chooses to nail one other, and this other player needed or is forced to answer a question. And only if this player answers, so the nailed player, if the nailed player answer correctly, he will earn points, and whoever nailed him will lose points. If the player answer wrong, the player who nailed won't change anything from their score, but the other player will lose things. So it's like a multi-step purpose here. Um, First, we need to again select the joker, then we need to select the player, and then we need to kind of executing it. And we're starting step by step. So because we have already things like here, let's say we can copy something. We know we will need another variable here. We will need has used nail joker, and we will go directly to it. Whoops. Has used nail joker. So we choosing a different symbol. Let's say I think it was a bold. Bold is nice. So we're choosing F8 bold, F8 bold. Oops. Okay, so got so far. And on click, like nail Joker requested. We have the same here. An event callback, creating the same things again, which is usually an indicator we should be doing. There are better ways to do it instead of copying, but later. So we go to our game session page, and as we have done before, we say like um, nail Joker requested should be nail Joker requested. And creating the method. And by the way, we also just go here, else if args.key. But let's say I want to use an n to do it. So unlike the total reliable wisdom joker, here we need to wait for the next interaction. So the only thing the nail joker requested method does is setting a remembering us of the state. So we say like private nail joker requested is true, and sorry, underscore nail joker, and it's a boolean. Makes also sense. So nail joker requested is true, but only we can use the same things here. And nail joker can only be requested if we have an active player and if the player has used nail joker is wrong. We have already here this thing has used nail joker. Should be available as property. Okay. Oops. Not zooming out. Moving to a different file. Nail joker requested too. And well, let's say also same we have. And now I want to, okay, the same as we had before. Like we directly executed our joker, and the joker sets this property to false. Um, or he sets this property to use, and not property sets this joker to use. Um, is oops. Yeah, get it. The same should be done here. So we're doing like the following things: session player requested nail joker active player index active player index, and we just like propagate it through. So we go to our game session, we in new method, we don't want to return something, player index, and here we go, choosing our player, and where we say like wait, we say player nail joker requested wait, okay, nail joker requested. What does this change is also interesting. Scrolling, public void nail joker requested. So well, let's introduce a variable, um, which is this time like nail joker is in use, and we say like nail joker is in use to true. as I mentioned, we have this phase where or where the player needs to select the player who is to be nailed, which is kind of very interesting construct here. So, and during this phase, would be great to have a kind of visual indication that this joker is active. So we set nail joker in use. We're going back to the footer, and now we're using a class we have done before, a trick we have done before. So we say like player dot nail joker is in use true. I want to have btn default, so making it a blue background. And in all other cases, I want to have btn joker. I'm sorry, I want to have btn light. I want to have btn light, and btn joker should be always part of the class. True. Otherwise, yeah, makes sense. So we're saving everything. We hope we don't have compiler errors, so we don't. Okay, NetJoker requested. So what we're expecting now is like we starting the game. I see a different joker. I can use it by pushing my player key and N, and now it's becoming different color. And I think I misspelled primary. No, I said BTN default instead of BTN primary. Perfect. So it's BTN primary. Changed. We're waiting for compile and reload. We're starting a game. I'm choosing player game, and now we see like the joker is active. There's no way for it to be unactive anymore. It's also like reloaded, and also like doesn't change anything because no player is active. I'm selecting a player, and now it's doing something. Okay, we have already accomplished a lot. We have now entering the kind of state machine here. So let's go back. What should happen now? Now, if I pushing any any player indexes. So like I want to push um, key 2 to select the second player, which is guessed here in this context. So we need to create this logic. And we already handle input by keys. What, sorry, in our game session page. So we're already handling it. Now we need to make a kind of little trick here. So active player index. Here we have to use this joker and to be in the state we need to have an active player. So we are in this branch, and we want to try and we want to see if whatever key has pressed or has been pressed is a number. So we try to convert it. Now it's getting interesting. For whatever reason, it's like or not for whatever reason, but it doesn't matter if you're thinking about an answer or if you're thinking about um, a player. In both cases, we need to reduce the index by 1 because we humans usually start by counting 1, so the first element is 1. But in most languages, which are kind of C derivatives, we always start with 0 as an index. So now it's about not selecting an answer, it's about selecting a different player. So if nil joker requested equals false, then we wouldn't change something. Else, now it's getting interesting. We need to we need to prevent we need to prevent someone from nailing himself. So if active player index equals don't do nothing. So answer index, maybe we should rename it like maybe just. index pressed. Maybe just index pressed. Seems a bit better. Okay. In all other cases, now what we want to do, we want to inform our session and say like um, link nailer to nailee. Interesting construct. And we want to index press. So again, it's about like shifting this logic out of our game session page into our game session. So we create this thing here. And we have active player index. So like we have nailer index and nailee player index. Nailer player index here. Okay, so we're choosing our nailer to stick to the name and nailee. And now we say nailee link. Now we say nailee link to nailer. And here we are. So we're going back to our player. We just can create it. It's also a very comfortable way, generate method. So we need to change our logic from we need to change our answering logic if we have this kind of joker here. So we introduce a new variable, and we call this variable player, call this variable nailer to stick to the names. Um, so this, all what this method does is just setting a variable, just a remembering. So now it's getting interesting. If is correct true. If is correct true. Yeah. So we want that the nailer loses the same amount. So we could now, because we have the so if nailer is not null. So if someone nailed us, if we are answering, this is essentially what this if is. So then we want to say like nailer nail joker failed, and it failed by the score. Otherwise, it would be like nailer nail joker succeeded. And because we don't earn points, if it's right, we don't need further information here. So what does nail joker failed mean? We need to set our multiplier back to 1, just in case it wasn't, and our own points need to be decreased by this need to be decreased minus perfect by the score, and our nail joker is used is true, and nail joker, yeah. So it's not in use anymore. It's you also argue this would be a good time like nail joker. Sorry, it has use of definitely. It's true because now it's like successfully executed. I mean, not successfully in general, it's executed. And the same, it's like if it succeeded, multiplier won't change, points won't change, but this would change. So, and because we have two times the same function here. Let's create a new method and call it like nail joker executed. And we go in here, we go in here, and we go in here. Okay, so here we have nail joker, here we have link to naily. So only thing we need to do is like saying after it, we have active player index is our index press and return. And it should be index pressed. I think sounds a little bit better. Okay, let's see if it's already working or if we need to make some more changes here. Okay, I start the game. I have two jokers. I'm first player. I want to nail someone. It's active. I can't nail myself. I'm pushing one. Nothing happened. But I could nail the second player. We see second player is now active. These it's still requested. Maybe I had also think about a third state where we have like it's currently in progress or the other is forced. And what happened if I answer the let's say I answer the wrong question. So I'm choosing option one. Ah, that's interesting. Here we have a kind of error. I've selected the active player, but what I forgot, I didn't reset nail joker requested here. So I need to set it to false again because we have already like executed it. So saving it again. I start the game. I'm first player. I want to nail the second player. I can't still push one, but I can push two. I can't, if I choose the wrong answer, we see I losing points. Joker is gone. Now we go into the, now I choosing the right answer to move to the next question. Now second player's turn, choosing the Joker to nail, choosing the first player, and now the first player choosing the right answer, which increases the multiplier, adding points, and make the other player lose a lot of points here. So it's working. We have finished our second Joker. And yeah, we can also use the other Joker here. Our total liable wisdom Joker. We can use the. Have you seen it? There was an error, which is interesting. So it was a tiny mistake. We forgot about it, or I forgot about it. Back into our player. We say here, nail Joker failed, nail Joker succeeded. However, once we are nailed, we will be nailed forever. So what's missing here? It's like nailer should be returned to null, the same as here. Okay, that lets us lead us directly to our next point. Just making it quick. So starting again, I start my game. I'm choosing. Oh, it's interesting. Also another smaller bug. So I'm choosing my player key, and then I can choose another one, which is not as intended. So I think I have a kind of small mistake in my logic here. So here should be false from the beginning. So we start the game again. We choosing. I can't choose question. Ooh, mistake. Interesting. What happened here? Okay, well, let's investigate. I want to start a game. I want to select an answer. Okay, it happened here again. I just want to just number one. I want to select. So it seems like something around here it's broken. So we see it's like it's starting to on line 135, 135, which is here. So, and I just want to see if we have introduced it by all the other logic. So this is what was before. So we see, I start my game, I go to, and it still happens. So it's nothing to do with explicitly what is done happened here. So we uncomment, and it seems something like here, option selected, something with our submit answer. So what could be wrong here? So it's a good point to start with the debugger. So we stop watch task. We going back here, or we going maybe one step further down. Um, so we starting here. Debug point is set. Saving. Starting debugger. Interesting because I haven't expected it. Okay. So we start a game. I'm selecting an answer. So we go directly to submit answer. We have index null, makes sense. Player index was also null, makes sense. Used option is not null, makes sense. We go to our question. We can choose is correct. Players as answers. So it seems like something here gone wrong. And of course we have so here it is. You see, I said nailer, but I forgot entirely to ask if nailer not null. Because I only tested the kind of happy path here first. I haven't seen it. So, should be fixed. Our problem. We go back into our watch step again. Okay, we're starting our game. I want to answer a question. It's working. I mean, wrong. It's working. Okay, I want to use a joker because I think he doesn't know the answer, and I was right. And I go in because I know the answer. It's number three. Perfect. I go to the next question. I'm not sure what I want to do. I want to use my joker. Oh, also not right. I want to use my other joker too. Working. Now it should be like a revenge time. So I'm choosing to nail second player choosing an answer. Both have negative points, which is not an error. It's over. And we see. And even we have the right amount of correct answer, it still is not working. So try it again. Oh, you see, if we try it again, we still have saved the values here. So it's not so complicated. Let's go back to our game session. Our game session has um, a reset thing, restart thing. So question index 0 makes sense, but also, let's say for each item player in players. Well, let's also have a reset method. Reset players. And I want to generate this method. Just checking if I already created it. Nope. So if reset, let's say answers should be cleared. Cleared. Points should be 0. Multiplicator should be 1. Nail joker used. In use should be false. Nail joker should be false, and total reliable should be false too. So and final test. Just again, I do it very quickly. Liability joker next. Nail joker next. Next. Liability joker. Perfect. Doesn't use nail joker yet. And I want to try it again. Everything back to normal. Okay, that's great. That's another function. There's only one tiny thing here. If we still have the active player, we're selecting the avatar here. Maybe it would be great to have like the entire field becoming more visibly active. So back into our footer, where we have our avatar here. Removing is selected while saving the condition. We go into our list element and we're adding class. If then we want to have like player active. I forgot it again. It's active player. Yeah, nearly finished. Nearly. So we want to have active player, and in all other cases, nothing. So empty class, empty, empty. Nope, string dot empty. Because it's not. Okay. Saving and correcting. Whoop, whoop. So let's say, I can also add another one, of course. Start a game by choosing the player key. Yeah, now we are done. We have created the next part of our quiz. Now we have much more elements. And yeah, was a really nice thing. So it's time to wrap it up, I, I think. So we can say we had another session and we had also more features. What I think here was very important in this session is that we see how we have developed it. Um, we have always started from the foundation from last episode, and then we have think about what type we need to tweak around a bit. You need to a little bit more, a little bit less. So it's about having much iterations and changing very few things in each iteration. So we can say good source code is not created once, it's always created over time because it's constantly refined. What we entirely miss here, and as we missed on purpose, is testing. So in an ideal situation, or in a normal situation, which is not focused on learning, we would have starting with writing tests. But still this practice of iterating through and making small changes and renaming variables and renaming classes, so this entire process should be a constant effort to make the source code more explicit, but also more descriptive, more clean, better to read. And again, it's always something which happened over time, and I hope this was kind of a lesson here. And I also I'm a huge fan of Go tiny steps. So if you have seen, for example, we created our console logging just to see if we hit this method. Um, because if we're using tiny steps, we can easily see um, what mistakes we have introduced. For example, in what I've done not on purpose or not intentionally was the wrong path about the nailer, where I forgot to make the null check because everything before has worked. I was pretty even if I used the debugger as a kind of learning purpose, as I had really fast an idea in mind where this error might have been because I know exactly what we have changed from these tiny steps. So really, it's not a big deal. Even if you're adding one line and going into next iteration and another line, it's totally fine because this is how also experienced developers or good developers work. And maybe I wasn't this time as excited, but I really was. It was a lot of fun developing it, and I was totally into it. That's why maybe I have not, yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I have really enjoyed it. It was great, and yeah, coding is fun. I think this is also a very good point for the summary. So next next session will be like doing finishing touches. So we some optical changes, a little bit of margin there. We'll introduce our counter component, which I haven't done so far. Sorry, Ugh, yawning. Haven't done so far. And then we go directly into the multiplayer thing, which will be a kind of totally new dimension here, but also very interesting and useful one. So next episode, once in a week. Maybe we change time, not sure, but I will inform you. So again, next episode, finishing touches, and then we go ready to deploy our app into a cloud environment so we can use it from everywhere just by entering a URL into a browser. Yeah. So, and as always, there's a questionnaire here, also on the README pages on GitHub. And if you have time, I would really appreciate getting feedback here to improve myself. And yeah, thanks for your time. Um, I had fun. Thanks for staying here. Thanks for asking questions. I hope it was helpful to you too. And yeah, if you don't like it, also feel free to tell me why. So yeah, have a nice day and see you on next episode. Bye.